The tyrant is around the corner. Not my phrase, the president's phrase from the speech at Ohio State where he said, don't listen to people who tell you the tyrant is around the corner. Let me tell you, an IRS is not a tyrant, but the IRS that makes decisions based on politics is. The Justice Department is not a tyrant, but the Justice Department, disregarding the First Amendment, disregarding the federal rules of criminal procedure, is a tyrant. And the CIA and the State Department and the White House, when they lie about what happened, when they cover up the deaths of 4 American innocents, not for national security reasons, but to help the president's reelection campaign, that is tyrannical. The tyrant about which he has warned us is around the corner.
This is pretty straightforward. If, in fact, IRS personnel engaged in the kind of practices that have been reported on and were intentionally targeting conservative groups, then that's outrageous, and there's no place for it.
That was President Obama today reacting to a growing scandal gripping Washington, D.C. and the nation. The IRS now apologizing for targeting conservatives and other groups in what many consider political profiling, although the IRS denies that politics were behind its decision to do this. But is an apology enough? And do we really need a special prosecutor to now look into this and how high it went, especially when we had the IRS commissioner testifying this way back in March of 2012?
Can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting particular groups based on political leanings?
First, let me start by saying yes, I can give you assurances. As you know, we pride ourselves on being a non-political, nonpartisan organization. And so what's been happening has been the normal back and forth that happens with the IRS. There's absolutely no targeting. This is the kind of back and forth that happens when people apply for 501c4 status.
House Speaker John Boehner is convinced this is criminal.
The IRS has admitted to targeting conservatives, even if the White House continues to be stuck on the word if. Now, my question isn't about who's going to resign. My question is, who's going to jail over this scandal?
The Inspector General blasted the IRS for ineffective management, delaying the status of conservative groups seeking tax-exempt status, and asking unnecessary questions, including the names of donors. The top Democrat on the House Ways and Means Committee, which is investigating, says it's time for heads to roll.
Several should be relieved of their responsibilities. The acting commissioner and the person who has been heading up the exempt organization portion. I think there's a need for new leadership there, so I called for relieving them of their responsibilities.
Today, all 45 Republican senators signed this letter demanding the Obama administration fully comply with congressional investigation requests. Ahead of the president's meeting with Treasury officials, his spokesman called the IRS activity inappropriate.
And he expects people to be held accountable if they engage in inappropriate activity, inappropriate conduct.
Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell says the IRS is just part of broader government intimidation.
They've tried similar stunts at HHS, at the SEC, at the FCC. This is an administration that believes that if you disagree with them, they need to shut you up.
As Fox has reported since Monday, it wasn't just Tea Party groups. Last night, Franklin Graham sent a letter on behalf of his father, the Reverend Billy Graham, saying after their Christian organizations ran ads in favor of traditional marriage, last October, the IRS audited both of them. Meanwhile, USA Today reports a review of IRS data reveals dozens of liberal groups were approved, while conservative organizations waited. One example, Lois Lerner, a senior IRS official, signed paperwork granting tax-exempt status within a month to the Barack H. Obama Foundation, a questionable charity set up by the president's half-brother. With some calling for an outside counsel to investigate, McConnell says lawmakers will gather their own facts.
The administration can do what it will. If they decide to have a special counsel, fine. But nothing they do is going to derail a thorough, detailed investigation by the Congress of the United States.
Fox News has learned the acting IRS Commissioner Stephen Miller will not plead the fifth in upcoming congressional hearings. Meanwhile, Nevada Republican Senator Dean Heller has proposed a bill that would prohibit any funding for Obamacare going to the IRS. The president's budget requests $440 million for the IRS to enforce his health care law. Brett?
The IRS scandal is the one that people feel most acutely. There's a powerful agency. It can destroy people. And the whole notion that a bunch of bureaucrats in Cincinnati, some left-wing guys, got together and did all this is so absurd. The fact that it's so widespread, that we're hearing from so many parts of the country, and there was so much intervention against so many conservatives, implies that there is something happening here at higher levels.
The White House is bleeding credibility as we speak.
Now, the IG's report says that this does not go outside the IRS. The IG's report says that this was not politically motivated. Now, that's what Carney was asked about today.
That's a real stretch that it was not politically motivated.
Religious groups were also singled out by the agency, including the ministry founded by the Reverend Billy Graham. And that's not all. A local St. Louis reporter, Larry Connors, is claiming that the IRS has been unfairly targeting him because of an interview that he did with Obama last year. He wrote on his Facebook page, quote, "Shortly after I did my April 2012 interview with President Obama, my wife, friends, and some viewers suggested that I might need to watch out for the IRS. Well, I don't accept conspiracy theories, but I do know that almost immediately after the interview, the IRS started hammering me." Here's a clip of Mr. Connors' interview with the president in question. Watch this.
Some of our viewers complain that they just don't, they get frustrated, even angered, when they see the first family jetting around, different vacations and so forth. Sometimes maybe they think under color of state business, and that you're out of touch, that you don't really know what they're experiencing right now.
Well, I don't know how many viewers you're talking about that say that.
I'm going to get in real trouble about this, in which they obey religious dogma that ordinary Christians don't obey. In many ways, they're very much like the Taliban.
So you don't think these are true Christians if they're members of the Tea Party?
I think these are cafeteria Christians. They pick one from
column A,
one from column B, one from column C.
The Republicans must be slapping high five behind closed doors, because they have three things going for them. One, their number one agenda item is to stop President Obama from accomplishing anything in a second term, and this aids that. Number two, they have their eye on the next congressional elections, 2014, and many Republicans in Congress were getting estranged from the Tea Party, and now they have solidarity with the Tea Party moving toward that election. And by the way, with the Benghazi thing, they managed to damage Hillary Clinton's chances of not only getting the presidency in 2016, but also getting the nomination.
President, and a piece of it is racism. Not that somebody in one racial group doesn't like somebody in another racial group, so what? It's the sense that the white race must rule. That's what racism is. And they can't stand the idea that a man who's not white is president. That is real.
You take away everything and that, because that's what white supremacy is, and that's not calling all of them that.
Right, and he kind of, in some ways, infantilizes the people around him. A lot of them are young. Some of them are very smart and talented, but they're all in awe of the president. They have an unhealthy love for him. Yes, they do sometimes tell him the bad news, which he says he wants. They're not all sycophants.
Little irony there.
Top story, the mess of the IRS. Lawmakers ripped into the tax agency's booted boss during a hearing on the targeting of Tea Party and other conservative groups. Stephen Miller apologized for the agency's tactics, which he called foolish mistakes and, quote, horrible customer service. You think? Well, he said the targeting was not politically motivated, but when asked for specifics, the nation's outgoing top taxman said he didn't really know. And that left lawmakers outraged.
And you said, I don't know. If an American taxpayer said to you in an audit, I don't know the answer, what would your agency do to that person?
We would work with them.
I've seen what you've done to them when they say they don't know. That's the problem.
Why did you mislead Congress and the American people on this?
Mr. Chairman, I did not mislead Congress nor the American people.
Now you come here and somehow try to say I did the honorable thing by falling on my sword, when nothing bad is going to happen to you.
Nothing bad is happening to me, Congressman.
Yeah, financially, you're allowed to retire. That's the level of accountability in Washington, D.C. now. You're getting a paycheck for being here today, correct? Correct?
Correct.
The latest focus in this scandal is an old target, actually, for Republicans. It's the president's health care law, right?
Well, Greg, it turns out the woman who used to run the tax exempt division of the Internal Revenue Service is now in charge of implementing the tax provisions of the Affordable Care Act, making sure that people who are working either purchase health insurance and providing subsidies for those who can't afford it. Her name is Sarah Hall Ingram, and while she wasn't at the hearing today, her ears may have been burning.
So she provided horrendous customer service under her watch, and now she's going to do the same, implementing Obamacare. Swell. This is a perfect example of why we need tax reform.
Democrats asked Miller what information her current division would collect.
Their job in Obamacare is simply to collect paid financial information on which a determination is made as to whether somebody can get a subsidy for their premium. Is that correct?
Were you covered, and over what period is what we would be getting?
Just yesterday, the House voted for the 37th time to repeal all or part of Obamacare. Conservatives say 47 provisions in the health care law will be implemented by the IRS, and the Tea Party targeting scandal may alter the political landscape for that.
Obama administration is finally coming clean about the true cost of Obamacare. After years of lies, they are now going on record and admitting that their brilliant plan will actually raise insurance premiums for countless American families. Now, just yesterday, Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius told reporters, quote, well, these folks will be moving into a really fully insured product for the first time, and so there may be a higher cost associated with getting into that market. Now she tells us, now maybe it took her this long to actually read the bill to find out what's in it. Now, what's interesting about the revelation is it directly contradicts what the president has been telling you for years. Watch this.
We will start by reducing premiums by as much as $2,500 per family. And we'll do it by taking the following 5 steps to lower costs throughout our healthcare system.
That's why I met with representatives of insurance and drug companies, doctors and hospitals, and labor unions who are pledging to do their part to reduce healthcare costs.
Add it all up, and the plan I'm proposing will cost around $900 billion over 10 years. Our cost-cutting measures mirror most of the proposals in the current Senate bill, which reduces most people's premiums and brings down our deficit by up to $1 trillion over the next decade because we're spending our health care dollars more wisely. When you hear about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, and I don't mind the name because I really do care.
Oh, it's your name. Excuse me, Mr. President. Now, if you really did care, why would you have repeatedly lied to the American people about the effects of this master plan? And not surprisingly, when asked about Sibilius' comments on the rise in the costs earlier today, White House propagandist Josh Earnest tried dodging the question. Watch this.
Can I ask you about some comments yesterday made reportedly by your Health and Human Services Secretary saying that there will be an increase in premium costs for some Americans as a result of Obamacare? Do you agree with that?
I didn't see those comments. What I would actually point you to is I would actually point to the results that we are already seeing from the Affordable Care Act, which is a savings of $2.1 billion, and the analysis from the CBO that actually says in the future we're going to see rates that are lower for higher benefits.
How dare you insult my president? You are a N-word, and you need to get back. You know, it's just unbelievable.
Don't want the IRS ever being perceived to be biased and anything less than neutral in terms of how they operate. So this is something that I think people are properly concerned about.
That is an understatement, and get ready, this is about to get worse. And apparently the message from conservatives is this: not being straight about what happened in Benghazi is one thing. Going straight to the IRS to target groups you don't like, that is quite another thing. And that is the charge, and that is the fear. So much we don't know, this much we do. If Richard Nixon once famously said he gave his enemies a sword, this president might have just given them a chainsaw.